The 1990s were a strange time, especially the early years, since we hadn't quite shooken off the cocaine-fueled neon haze that was the 1980s. And so we wound up with weird and terrible train wreck RPGs like SLA Industries. SLA Industries is a science fiction horror game about conspiracies. It's set in a world called the World of Progress, a collection of planets owned by a conglomeration known as, well, SLA Industries. And SLA owns just about everything in the World of Progress, and it wants to keep it that way, and it wants to keep things running smoothly. Which is where you, an operative for SLA, come in. This much is probably not going to be immediately obvious to you when you first crack open the book, though, since the first 100 pages or so of it are nothing but setting information. It's not even an interesting read, just a long, sterile sequence of events, and it's made worse with a lack of descriptions or notated illustrations. I quit reading after 10 pages. They include an introduction in the beginning, sure, but it's more an introduction to what a role-playing game is. Not to the setting of the world, just to the concept of role-playing. It's not even half a page long, which, granted, is all you really need to explain the concept of role-playing, I suppose. But then it follows with a detailed run-through of a session, complete with stats of rolls. None of this has been explained yet. None of these stats have been explained. And there's no explanation for what the esoteric terms like Wraith Raider and Eben are. In fact, none of those explanations really occur until somewhere halfway through the book, after a bunch of these terms have already been used countless times. So you're given a brief introduction to role-playing, then you're suddenly slapped in the face with all manner of story details that are not explained until after you've already given up on trying to get it. And this setting reads like somebody's fantasy novel that was original for the sake of being original. You have a race of mellow psychics called Ebens, who are psychics because of a connection they have to a force called the Ebb. Then on the other hand, you have their psychotic cousins, the Brain Wasters, who are perpetually angry and want to kill everything. Then you have two other alien races, Shakhtars and Wraith Raiders, the first being violent but honorable warrior aliens, and the second are more sly and tenacious. There's a few other oddities in addition to humans, but honestly, this setting just feels like it tries too hard to be both unique and interesting. It feels also like they're trying too hard to comment on the brainwashing effect of television and corporations. Everything about the setting of this game just seems to try too hard, including the artwork. It's filled with all kinds of revoltingly extreme artwork from the 90s that was popularized by Rob Liefeld. The artwork is so busy and washed out that it becomes difficult to tell what you're looking at. I can give a pass to a good game with bad artwork, but this is a game from the 90s, and if the artwork didn't give it away, the rules certainly will. The core mechanic of the game is to roll 2d10 and add your relevant skill or attribute and try to roll over 11. The GM is allowed to impose penalties for a task if it is particularly tough, though there aren't very many coherent guidelines given unless you refer to a chart or for one of the specific situations. The only such references to this being combat and fear rolls, which, true to the form of many 1990s RPGs packed to the brim with ultra-violence, this game has some very detailed rules of everything you can do in combat, complete with more charts than you can shake a fist of dice at. I won't go too much into detail about the combat rules, but the only thing I think this game does well is that while it includes a lot of calculations in combat, it's mostly in the form of modifiers to the base damage or to the rolls being made. In addition, all attack rolls are made against a target number of 11, with a character needing to decide if they'll use some of their combat ability to defend, lowering their combat ability, but what they lower it by is applied as a penalty to the attacker. And as for fear rolls, instead of trying to roll over 11, you actually want to roll under 11. It's a little counterintuitive, just like the myriad of other things in this book, but it has an interesting way of balancing the game out by giving you something you'd actually want to roll low on if you have a bad set of dice. That said though, all the details regarding skills, combat, and ebb powers suffer from the same layout problems that the rest of this book has. Everything is clumped together and not presented in an immediately useful order. Which is to say nothing about the wild complexity of the bullet types in this game. Seriously, count it. There's 3 charts for each type of factor a bullet has: damage, armor piercing, and armor damaging. and this is influenced by the gun used as well as the type of bullet for that gun. Perhaps the most cumbersome thing about this game, though, is this. In addition to the disorganized mess that it is, and the huge collection of charts and variables, it's a point-buy game. So there's a lot of factors that need to be taken in, and to top it all off, a player is given complete freedom over building their character. This is a game that, in the hands of a bunch of newbies, is a disaster waiting to happen. So that's SLA Industries. It's not really an anomaly as far as 1990s RPGs go. A lot of them had really bad design choices, AD&D and Shadowrun included, for as much as I love those. And really, looking at a game like this kind of makes me appreciate how far we've come along. So, with all that said, I am Aaron Dershale, and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this and want to see me look over some other game, leave it in the comments below, and I'll see what I can do. If you're curious about just how bad this game really is, you can read it for yourself. It's available on a pay-what-you-want basis on DriveThruRPG. Hey, Tinker's Dam, I found a playmate for ya.